Welcome.
Hi.
So, Simon, listeners at home in Canada might recognize you from your days as a solo singer-songwriter, and you still perform. But now you've made this transition into writing and co-writing with some of the biggest stars. Tell me about your first time sitting down in that sort of co-writing session. What was that like for you?
It happened really early in my career as a singer-songwriter. I made a little folk record for $675 in my friend's second bedroom. And a Montreal artist, Joran, heard it and asked me to work on her next record with her. So we sat down together and it was so much fun.
Right away, it was fun for you.
It was just so much fun because it's kind of a lonely experience, songwriting, which it's weird to talk to you about this because it's something that you know so well. But it can be a lonely experience. And also, I think we have a tendency to travel the same neural pathways.
That's absolutely true, yeah.
And so I tend to choose the same chords, maybe, but when somebody's there to push you a little bit, to try something different.
Something you would have never thought of.
Yeah. So it was really exciting for me. I fell in love with it right away and wanted to do it forever and ever.
Okay. So music fans now are kind of catching up to the idea that singers often work with other songwriters to come up with big hits, but they don't have a full sense of what that looks like. Tell me what a typical songwriting session looks like for you.
I think it's different every time. And certainly I try to go into the room and assess what's needed. So how can I bring out the talent in the room or keep people excited about an idea and make them feel inspired?
Interesting. So you don't come in firstly with your ideas. You come in firstly thinking, how can I contribute here?
No, because maybe somebody has a better idea than I do. So the first thing I do is listen and watch.
Well, it's interesting. I read that listening is a big part of your process and that you actually learned deep listening through therapy.
Yes, I did.
Tell me about that. What did you learn about listening through that?
I learned about how great it feels to be listened to and to be heard.
Wow.
Yeah, and to be acknowledged. And there's something about, I'm stealing this, but the container of a therapist's office, that feeling of safety.
That's interesting because that can be empowering for an artist to have that sense of being listened to. And that can kind of bring out their ideas. Is that sort of what you mean? Bring out their best ideas?
I think that what's really compelling in music is truth. Even if there's just a grain of truth, I think that it resonates with the listener. And that kind of truth is sometimes scary. And to get that to come out in a songwriting session, you really have to be present.
I talked with an author yesterday, Carmen Aguirre. She's also an actor. And a lot of what we talked about was what she had to go through in order to become a good storyteller in acting and theater. And a lot of it for her was therapy, was deep personal work. Do you think that's been key in your songwriting, going through all of that therapy? Did that make you a better songwriter, a sort of more honest, more true voice?
Yes, absolutely. You know, some people are fortunate enough to find themselves in a job that uses many of their weird, talents. I bet you feel that way maybe sometimes.
Yeah, like a sort of a lot of your experience kind of comes in.
Yeah, you have a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
Hey, you're on the radio. Anyway, I guess that's how I feel about songwriting, that somehow therapy really helped, and I went to art school. I went to OCAD, and my arts education helped me, and I spent time doing some theater when I was younger, and that helped me, and I learned to speak French because I went to French immersion in Ottawa, and that helped me. But all these sort of weird haphazard skills came
It's
together.
kind of the sum of all these things.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's time to listen to some music that you've worked on.
Uh-oh.
One of the biggest songs you've worked on lately was Nick Jonas's Jealous. It hit #1 on the top 40 and Billboard dance charts. It has sold over 3 million copies in the United States. Here's a bit of Jealous.
I turn my chin music up and I'm puffing my chest. I'm getting red in the face. You can call me obsessed. It's not your fault that they hurt, but I mean no disrespect.
When you were working on that, why are you laughing?
I don't know. I'm embarrassed.
Why are you embarrassed?
I feel shy.
It was a hit song.
Okay.
When you were working on that, did you know it would be a hit?
No, I had no idea.
Really?
Yeah, I called my manager after the session because it was a pretty big deal for me to write with Nick. I called my manager after the session and I said, I think it's solid. I think I have an album on the record, but I think we need to write some more. And we didn't write any more, but I did have an album, song on the record. Sorry.
So you thought it was solid enough to make the album, but you didn't know it would be this.
Yeah, I
this
just
thing.
thought it was solid. I thought it was a solid song, and I liked that it was true.
It came out of a real conversation.
Yeah, Nick and I were sitting together, and we were talking in the parking lot behind the studio, and he said, I really like it when my girl gets jealous. He was talking about his relationship, and I thought, that's so cool to think about, to reframe jealousy as like a positive thing.
And the song came together pretty quickly.
Very quickly after that.
Is that usually a good sign?
I don't think it's wrong to fight for a song or to take your time working on a song. And sometimes there's a hierarchy in people's minds where they think that if it happened easily, then, somehow it's better. But I think there's value in writing and rewriting. So, no.
Okay. Now, you've also written for rock bands like 3 Days Grace and even a ballad for pop classical singer Josh Groban. I want to play a bit of that.
And I won't blame you if you fall. And I won't ask you to believe that life won't hurt at all. When the tears stream down your face and you've given all your light away, I'd like to be the safest place, your hideaway.
That was Josh Groban singing Your Hideaway. Now, in the case of Jealous, you had a conversation with Nick Jonas and kind of produced this song. In this case, you didn't actually work directly with the artist. It was a song that you had worked on with the producer Tog Salter. What's it like when a song you've written gets picked up in that kind of roundabout way?
Actually, it's something that Josh Groban and Tog Salter wrote together.
Oh, okay.
And they sent me the melody and the track. And they were together in New York. And they sent it to me, and I would sit at my kitchen table and try to make words fit their beautiful melody, and then send them the words, and then they would send me back, this is not good enough. They would try again at the kitchen table, crying, alone, 3:00 in the morning. No, I'm kidding. I was at the kitchen table, but I was just alone trying to fit words to that. I think that melody is gorgeous. I didn't write it, so I'm allowed to say that.
So when they are sending you the song with the melody, what is Josh Groban singing? Just sort of sounds?
Mumbly stuff.
And are you trying to pull words out of the mumbly stuff, or are you trying to write different words altogether?
Well, vowels are so integral to singing, as you know. And so I sometimes try to make the vowel sounds work, though I was recently doing that with Enrique Iglesias. We were working together, and I was working on this translation for him, and I was really trying to make the vowel sounds perfect. He said, Simon, stop. You need to tell the story. I don't care about the vowels. I want the story, I want something beautiful.
People probably don't think writing lyrics goes down to that level of detail, vowel sounds. They probably think it's all about the story.
Yeah, no, it isn't. It's a balance, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is music at the end of the day. It has to sound good as well as communicate the story. Yeah. Now, you're in town this week working with Toronto pop heartthrob Scott Hellman.
He's a heartthrob.
He's a heartthrob, I've been told.
He's just a little baby boy.
He's 20. You can be a heartthrob at 20.
Oh, right.
Now,
okay.
you started working with him much, much younger. That's probably why you have an aversion to that term applied to him. I bet a lot of people will have heard this next tune, which the two of you wrote together.
And knowing it won't last just tears me apart. This is how it goes, this is how it goes. Baby, we're rolling just a boat on the ocean. Up in the sky, heaven so close.
That was Scott Hellman with his big hit Bungalow. It's a very catchy song right there. What's it like collaborating with an emerging artist? We've talked about Enrique Iglesias and Josh Groban, Nick Jonas. What's it like collaborating with the artist who's just starting out?
Well, we wrote that song. We have a sort of a little writing crew, and it's Tog Salter, Scott Hellman, Ron LaPata, and I. And we wrote that song. We've written a bunch of others together. Scott and I, as you know, have been working together since he was 15.
Mm-hmm.
I was just such a fan of his poetry and his approach to songwriting that I don't know, I can't stop working with him. I love it. I don't feel like there is a difference
Between a new emerging artist and an established artist?
I know that's a weird thing to say, but it's really about the song. I mean, I just focus on the song.
I'd imagine singing is such a vulnerable thing, too, that whether somebody's just starting out or they've been singing for years, it's the same vulnerable experience.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If you're just joining us, I'm Shad, and this is Q, and my guest is Canadian songwriter Simon Wilcox. She's joining us as part of our ongoing series, The Hitmakers, a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to craft today's top songs. So, Simon, you started off as a solo musician, and you were building a career as a singer-songwriter with your own material here in Canada. How is writing for others different than when you're writing material for yourself? And you still write material for yourself.
Yes, but I keep it. It's private. I just only perform it in my living room right now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, okay. So I liken being a songwriter for other people to either being a bridge where the artist can say, I want to go over there, and you say, okay, I can figure out how to get you there, or to being a good bra, which means you lift and support. I had to say that. So that's what I think it's like. Whereas you can. I really am concerned about the voice of the artist and what they feel is cool and what they want to say. And you know, when I'm writing for myself, it's just about what I want to say, and I can say all sorts of idiotic, weird stuff.
You seem very sensitive to that, to an artist finding their voice and communicating their voice. Why do you think that is? I'd imagine not all songwriters are like that. They want to be a bra for someone else. You know, I'd imagine some songwriters are really interested in communicating their ideas and their voice. Why do you think you're particularly sensitive?
I don't know. I care about what the artist has to say, and I want to support that. I think it's about them, not about me.
You obviously work well with different kinds of artists, but was there ever a time where you were working with someone and you realized this actually isn't a good fit?
Yeah, I've left sessions before. I've walked out of sessions before. And once I was co-producing a record and had to say I wouldn't be in the studio with the artist anymore.
What was that like?
They were pretty understanding. He was a really weird guy.
Was that why you couldn't work together, or was it musical incompatibility?
No.
It was more personal.
Yeah, personal, yeah.
And you kind of have the courage to just say, you know what, this isn't working. We have to go.
Yeah, well, I just called his representatives and said, I'll finish this, but I won't be in the studio with him. So we were just never in the studio together at the same time after that. He was mean.
He was mean.
Yeah.
And then that's
He's
a
mean guy.
toxic situation. You just had to get out of there.
Yeah.
Good. Good on you.
Thank you.
Just wrapping up here, I've read that you've said that at a certain point, at least, songwriting was a way for you to prove yourself, to prove your worth, prove that you have insight, that you have something to contribute.
How do you know all this stuff?
I do my research.
It's scary. Okay.
I was curious, is it still that for you? Is it still a space where you feel like you're proving yourself?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it started out of insecurity or a desire to be seen, and that will probably never go away. I think that's okay.
Is it to the same extent, or you're okay with that?
Yeah, I think you have to accept certain things about yourself, and I accept that. Hopefully, I won't be as openly self-deprecating anymore. I mean, I'm working on that, but
That's got to be important in songwriting sessions, I'd imagine, to kind of really stand by your ideas.
I don't know. A lot of songwriters are like, they'll say something like this. They'll come in, this is terrible. This is the worst thing ever. And then they'll say something totally brilliant. You know, so I don't know.
It
There's a
can work either
balance.
way, but you're working on being less self-deprecating.
Yeah, because I think you hear the things you say. That sounds ridiculous, but do you know what I mean?
No, what do you mean by that?
Well, even if you say something in passing or it seems like a joke, it resonates, it stays with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to do that anymore.
Okay, last question for you here. Your publishing company recently signed to Stellar Songs.
Mm-hmm.
That's run by the production duo Stargate. They work with all the superstars, Beyonce, Rihanna, you name it. What's signing with them? What does that mean for your career?
Oh, well, I mean, I idolize them. I think they're amazing. And so the first time I met them and got to be in the studio with them, I cried in the parking lot afterwards because I was so blown away. Because they worked with Esther Dean and they wrote, anyway, some incredible songs. I don't know. It's for my career. It's been great. I get to be in the room with them. We write together.
But you're more excited about the partnership with people that you just admire as artists.
Yeah, exactly. And I tend to admire a lot of people who are in front of and behind the camera.
Simon, it's been great having you.
Thank you so much.